So we just got a new jobs report out, and I'll just tell you the truth, it's bad. Basically, we're looking at a lot of job cuts. It's looking like recession. Let me show you what's going on. US companies announced most October job cuts in over 20 years. We haven't seen this for a while. Job cuts in October hit the highest level for the month in 22 years. Here's one chart looking at. There's multiple charts you're going to see, but basically it boils down to a lot of cuts. You're going to hear this number all day today, 153,000. This is for October. And then people are going to start talking about recession, right? Layoffs rise to recession-like levels through October. New report says employers have announced 1.1 million job cuts so far this year. And we're not even to the end of the year yet. Now, this is the chart, and there's multiple charts. Look at this one, but basically what you're looking at, we haven't seen anything like this, right? You can look at the pandemic, but that's an anomaly. As you guys know, I mean, economically, you're looking at more great financial crisis, dot-com bubble kind of stuff, right? If you remove the pandemic and compare what's happening right now, you're looking at, again, dot-com bubble and great financial crisis kind of stuff. You can see it literally right there in the chart. And we're at 1.1 million job cuts. We're not even towards the end of the year yet. And with Donald Trump's tariffs, with all the uncertainty, with this AI bubble, I think it could be really, really ugly out there. Now, let me read what they say. This is coming from Challengers, the name of the people who put this out. It says, quote, some industries are correcting after the hiring boom of the pandemic, right? So some companies went out and just went hiring like crazy, be it in tech, be it with warehouses, this kind of stuff. But then you have this, but this comes as AI adoption. Remember this whole game that Donald Trump keeps bragging about all this investment, right? Or Elon Musk keeps saying he's going to have all these robots. The whole goal is to replace you, the worker, right? These people are anti-worker. So you got hiring boom, so that you got layoffs there. Maybe some companies might have overhired. That's certainly possible. But then you have the AI adoption, right? Which they're trying to replace you, the worker. Softening consumer and corporate spending. So it's easy to put this stuff together. If you lay off a bunch of people, one, people don't have jobs, so they're not going to spend money. The USA is a consumer economy. So if people aren't spending money, what do you think that does to the economy? It's obvious, right? Economy implodes. Or let's say you have a job, but you're seeing all your friends get laid off and you're just like, I'm not spending, I'm getting kind of nervous, which completely understand. Or you see Donald Trump like saying, hey, I'm going to fire as many government workers as possibly can. And then not only that, there's two things, and I tell you guys all the time on the channel, you have many people who have to take care of their family members. So that's another additional expense for people who are working. And then also you have people who are just basically checked out of the system to where they might not even necessarily be reporting, right? So the numbers that we see in unemployment, they could be off because people are just like kind of checked out, right? They're not even reporting. So we don't know necessarily what's going on. But I can tell you it's bad. This is more. He also says rising costs drive belt tightening and hiring freezes, right? So then you got companies not hiring. It's really ugly out there. We've been talking this for a while, but I didn't even know it was this bad. I knew from daily reports that, okay, Walmart's firing, okay, Target's firing, okay, what other company's firing? I think Amazon is. And then you start to add it up, which is what this Challenger thing did. And they're like comparing it now to the past, and just like, again, the highest in a couple decades. I'm 50, if you guys don't know. I lived through the dot-com bubble. I lived through the great financial crisis. I know how ugly it can get. It can get really, really ugly. And for those of you who are even older than me, you'll remember like when inflation was, through the roof, and to be like 70s and 80s kind of stuff. You'll remember this stuff. So, for those of you who think that the world is always great and the USA is always making money, not necessarily, right? It depends, what era you grew up in. And as you go through this stuff, it is multiple companies. So let me read a little bit more. It says, companies announced 153,000 job cuts last month, almost triple the number during the same month last year, driven by technology and warehouse sectors, right? So I mean, like a lot of tech jobs are going away, and same with warehouse jobs. Now the warehouse one is concerning because, like, say, I think there was UPS also announced layoffs. Like this sort of is an indicator of overall health of the economy. And then you go through some of these lists and it just starts to add up. So Target is laying off. Paramount is laying off. Starbucks is laying off. Delta's laying off. CarMax is. Rivian is. Molson Coors Beer, right, is, etc. And it just, the list goes on. Every day there's a new announcement. And that's why these start to mount up. And it's going to have a ripple effect on all of us, right? If one, say, company lays off a bunch of people, that particular town, right, suffers. And then those people don't go to, say, the grocery store, the restaurants, don't do those services they normally do. And then the people who are still working, right, their business slows and then it just continues. So it's I kind of see where it's going. The Fed, because you have to bring this up, the Fed's going to be like, okay, the job market is really weak. We don't want to go into too deep a recession. So we cut rates to encourage, a bunch of borrowing and keep things going. But then we have the other issue with inflation is going to go run away out of control. I just think we're in a really bad shape right now. I think you all know this, but just wanted to lay it out there. And then, you read some more, I'll read a bit. It says recent layoffs, the data shows, have been concentrated in technology, retail, service, and warehouse jobs. Okay. And remember, the USA is a shopping economy. And then when I see this stuff, I just think it bodes poorly for that. Also mentions the government shutdown. The government shutdown, now in its second month, has left policymakers, economists without official data at the critical moment. Right. So we don't even have an official numbers of like how bad it is. Like we know it's bad, but we don't know exactly how bad. So like I said, I knew that there were layoffs, but I didn't know necessarily we were getting to this level. I didn't know it was that much. And again, we're not even we're not even at the end of the year yet. The job market in recent years has been the pillar of stability, right? Keeping the economy humming despite high inflation and uncertainty. But there are growing signs that employers are pulling back, not just by curtailing hiring, but by slashing jobs altogether. So some things a company could be like just not hiring, but doesn't mean they're cutting. But if you're not hiring and cutting, it's getting ugly out there. And then when I look at the, financial news, you'll hear these people like, I guess there's some, these people, they call themselves like the godfathers and godmothers, I should say, of AI. And they say, oh, well, AI is great. It's going to be, human, AI pioneers claim human level general intelligence is already here. Okay, great. And let me read a bit. Artificial intelligence is already superior to humans in many tasks, okay? It's according to them. According to the so-called godparents of the revolutionary technology, fueling an industry debate as how quickly tech giants will create, quote, super intelligence. And the reason why I bring this up is because you have to think about this. Okay, so if all the companies are investing all this money into this technology, there's a couple outcomes. One, let's say it ends up working. Let's say the AI replaces all the workers. So what's going to happen to you, right? Obviously, you're going to be out of a job, and that hurts the economy because you're not going to be spending. Things won't be going anywhere because, again, consumer-based economy. Two, let's say the AI doesn't work, okay? Well, then all these companies wasted all this money on something that doesn't work. That's not going to be good for anyone. And then the markets are going to be like, oh my God, this thing's a whole massive bubble. We borrowed a bunch of money to buy all these chips, to build all these data service centers, and then it turns out there's no subscribers, right? The best way to describe it in the most simplest terms is like, think of it this way. Let's say you're in your town, you're like, you know what? I think my town really needs a coffee shop, right? So you go out and you buy everything, you borrow a bunch of money, and you're like, okay, you put it in that coffee shop, and there's no customers, and you're underwater, and interest rates, are going to go up or whatever, right? And then you got a bunch of angry people, etc. This is kind of what a bubble looks like when you're all expecting this thing to work. So one or two outcomes, it works, then you're all replaced. It doesn't work, and we blew a bunch of money at, and the market implodes. I just don't think this is going to end well. And then you look at, the other news today. Elon Musk, I guess he's going to get his trilly. Elon Musk expected to prevail. Wow, great. Congratulations. In Tesla shareholder vote over CEO's $1 trillion pay plan. Every time I read this, and it's like, this is so stupid. It's like a failing company, and then basically all it is a stock pumping company at this point, right? Elon's like, hey guys, we're going to have like 5 robots for every person, and biggest product of all time, bragging about that trillion. He's like, hey, if you don't give me the trillion, I'm going to walk. I'm going to go do something else. And that shows you how ludicrous our markets are. I think what it ends up being is, there's a bunch of people out there who just, I'm just going to fantasize and live my dreams through Mr. Elon. And I guess if that's you, fantastic. But there's the rest of us who want to live in reality. And unfortunately, the reality is ugly. You have Donald Trump, who's, hey, let's keep the government shut down because why not? Because I'm an idiot. And it's really scary, guys. I'll just be frank with you guys, because the other problem is, just talking through with this, when you see these numbers of like, U.S. companies announce most October cuts in over 20 years, Trump is like actively trying to destroy people's safety nets, which is nuts, right? Be it food, be it healthcare. And I don't think this is going to end well. So the midterms can't come soon enough. And then, obviously the general, but the damage that's being done right now is so awful that it's going to be tough. So I'll keep you posted on this one. Again, this is news to me. I knew that there were layoffs, but I just didn't know they were to this scale. And we haven't seen this for a couple of decades. And if you've lived through this stuff, you kind of know what I'm talking about. So I want to hear your thoughts on this. I do appreciate your time, and I'll catch you on the next video.